decreasing the absorption of dietary iron due to hemolysis and repeated transfusions in the thalassemia major. Now, beta thalassemia major will have homozygous form. It can have a homozygous or heterozygous form. Now, a homozygous form of both absent, which is going to have a worse clinical features, or it's going to have some little of both, that is beta plus, or double heterozygous, completely absent and some positive. Fine. The clinical features will be dependent, and the classification of thalassemia is totally dependent on the beta globin gene present and the clinical manifestations. So the age will present at the first year of life. At birth, the HbF is very high, and thus the patient is asymptomatic. The baby is completely asymptomatic in the first 6 months of life. HbF reduction decreases, and thus the anemia. It leads to anemia due to the reduced formation of the HbA, that is reduced beta globin chains. Fine, there's going to be pallor, there's going to be extravascular hemolysis, I told you, in spleen. Okay, because of the decreased RBC survival, it's going to get destroyed. Now, thalassemia phases is going to come, that is frontal bossing is the technique of the cranial side. That voices and involvement of extraosseous masses in the other areas also. Okay, there will be bone changes. X-ray skull is a characteristic. You can get an X-ray skull done. It's going to show an expansion of the diploid with the thinner inner and the outer tables. There will be striations at right angles to inner table. That is a hair on end. So basically, it appears like there is the new bones or the hyperactive bone which is forming over the already formed bone. So that hyperactive bone appears as a hair on end appearance. The jaundice is mild, and there's growth and differentiation.
And then everybody like, yeah, let's go.
Peter, please off your mic. This is mic, everyone. Otherwise, I'll have to go and do it. Today is a very small class, so I think you all can bear with me. Today is a very small class. Another 20-30 slides and it will be over. Please. Okay. So what happens is mild jaundice, growth and developmental retardation. Iron overload may lead to cardiac hemosiderosis because there is so much iron overload. So it can a lot of iron absorption. So this iron will get deposited to various organs. It can lead to cardiac hemosiderosis, arrhythmias, congestive heart failure, and the iron deposition will be seen in liver and spleen, leading to secondary hemochromatosis. Okay, so you can see the child here with the mongoloid feces, and you can see this particular hair on end appearance on the skull X-ray. So what happens is, it's a pictorial representation. There's a normal RBC, there's equal formation of alpha 2, beta 2, HbA, normal hemoglobin, normal erythroblast, normal RBCs. The moment there's a reduced beta globin synthesis with relative excess of alpha globin, that is, there is no yellow and only red portions are there. Okay, so there is no beta globin, abnormal erythroblasts will be formed, and there will be insoluble alpha globin aggregates. So bone marrow will be affected. There will be few abnormal red cell leaving, otherwise mostly will get destroyed here. Okay, so alpha globin aggregates will be forming. There will be normal this thing. Some of them will be normal HbA, of course. So hypochromic cells, microcytic hypochromic red cell will form. Now this microcytic hypochromic red cell will destroy in the spleen. Okay, it will form aggregates and destroy in the spleen, and it will create anemia. Similarly, here also, mostly erythroblasts die in the marrow, ineffective erythropoiesis, and there will be other areas will be involved. There will be other organs which will cause this thing. Okay, and they'll be causing erythropoiesis. So what happens is, there will be more of blood transfusion will be required. So the dietary iron will have a decreased iron absorption, and systemic iron overload will have an increased iron absorption. Okay. Fine. So anemia will be anemia from here, and there'll be more blood transfusion. So it will reduce the tissue anoxia, and erythropoietin will be released. Fine. There'll be marrow expansion, and there'll be skeletal abnormalities because of marrow expansion. Okay, now in the lab diagnosis, we should know that there's complete blood picture. That is, the anemia is going to be moderate to severe, again depending on because this is thalassemia major, so it's going to have a severe anemia, 3 to 8 gram%. Then the MCV is going to be markedly decreased because it is microcytic hyperchromic. The size is going to be decreased, and the amount of hemoglobin is going to decrease. So MCH will be reduced. On peripheral smear, there is more moderate to marked anisopoikilocytosis. RBCs are microcytic hypochromic with many target cells. Okay, presence of nucleated RBCs because they're not able to mature itself. So mostly the nucleated RBC and the bone marrow has to proliferate. Lot of immature reticulocytes have to be formed. So the presence of nucleated RBCs, poikilocytes in the form of teardrop cells, elliptical cells, and fragmented cells will be seen. So you can see in this peripheral smear, you can see all these target cells. Okay, you can see the teardrop cells. Fine, and this is a normal. This is not normal RBC actually. This is a spherocyte. Okay, this appears to be a blister cell. Okay, fine. So out of these, the target cell is diagnostic of thalassemia. Okay, and you should know that anisopoikilocytosis is severe in thalassemia major. Okay, then you should know the reason why there's a target cell formation. This is going to be because of the excess of the cell membrane relative to its volume. Okay, there's a discrepancy in the cell volume surface area ratio. Fine. So reticulocyte count is mildly increased. Otherwise, it is normal. Okay. Then HPF is increased in 30 to 90% of the cases. HPF is going to be increased in severe thalassemia major. Okay, it is measured by the alkali denaturation method. Then hemoglobin electrophoresis is mandatory for a person to identify itself as thalassemia. So bands of both the HbA and HbF in beta positive thalassemia and only HbF in beta not thalassemia. HbA2 levels are less than 3.5%. Okay. So normally we say that HbA2 levels in normal individuals it is less than 3.5%, and in HbA2 will be increased in thalassemia trait. Okay. Another method we can use is HPLC, that is high performance liquid chromatography. That can be used as a quantitative measurement of various hemoglobin, both normal, abnormal, for all of them, for sickle cell also and thalassemia also. For both alpha and beta thalassemia, then globin chain synthesis, lack of the beta chain, alpha to beta ratio will be altered. So it's going to be 5 to 30:1. Okay, normal is 1:1. So it's going to be deranged. Then we can use molecular studies, DNA specific analysis can be done. So this is basically a plate showing hemoglobin electrophoresis. You can remember this is a very simple plate actually. Normal, you can see this is the origin. This is the HbA2, this is the HbF, and this is HbA. Okay. So accordingly, you can identify that beta thalassemia trait is going to have an increased HbA2. So the band is going to be broader. Okay. HbF will not change, and HbA will be again reduced. Obviously, HbA2 बढ़ेगा तो 100% से ज़्यादा तो नहीं हो सकता ना. So HbA is going to be decreased. Okay, beta thalassemia majors will have again HbA2 broad. It's going to have an increased HbA2, and in this HbF will also be increased. Okay, so broader width. Again, in sickle cell, there will be another separate band for sickle cell. It will not affect the rest of the values, but it will be a separate band. Okay, and HbA will reduce. Obviously, HbA will reduce. That is why the sickling is there, so sickle band should be there. And sickle cell anemia, the band width will increase with the formation of a little bit of HbF also. Now we can remember this that this has a fat Santa Claus can't go far. So HbA, this is actually HbA. The hemoglobin moves from cathode to anode, that is negative to positive, and so a fat that is HbA normal, then a fat F for HbF that will go closest to the anode, and then a fat Santa is for sickle cell. Okay, sorry, a minute. A fat Santa, yeah, sickle cell. Then HbS sickle cell anemia, and then sickle cell trait both. Okay, that is the glutamate to valine. So basically, valine is a neutral amino acid, so it will again go to the anode, and then comes your fat Santa Claus. So again, HbS and HbC and HbSC. So they both will not be able to go close to the negative this thing, because it is going to have a negative or you can say it's going to have a negative charge. So depending on the charge, it's going to go closer to the anode. Remember that. So you can remember it. I just told you for your information actually, because you should know that in hemoglobin electrophoresis, we are checking on all these HbA, the fat, HbF, Then HbS, HbC, all these are the occurring. So fat Santa Claus can't go far. Okay, and it is moving from cathode to anode. Now, biochemical investigation, bilirubin is going to be, it has to be unconjugated because it is extravascular hemolysis. So the urine bilirubin, the urobilirubin is increased. Fine. And serum iron and serum ferritin is markedly increased. Transferrin saturation is increased, but TIBC is reduced. Now, the bone marrow, you will have erythroid hypoplasia with normoblastic maturation. We know that. Okay. Then there will be dyserythropoiesis. The bone marrow iron is going to be increased because of lysis of the RBCs also and because of the excessive transfusions also. Now, the treatment, the blood transfusion, iron chelators can be used when you are giving a patient a blood transfusion because to avoid the iron overload, we can use chelators like deruxtecan, D-ferrosirox, and D-ferripyrone. Okay, then we can get a splenectomy done because in extravascular hemolysis, we have read that it is quite helpful. Okay, cell transplantation, and we can also have a cord blood transplantation. Okay, from the umbilical cord, we can use those cells also. Then we have thalassemia minor or trait. It is head. Minor in trait is much better, of course, because it's a trait and it's a minor, so it is symptomless. It does not have homozygous mutations. It is diagnosed by chance during the screening programs and positive family history. So you will have the entire family coming with a positive history of any mild symptom, anemia, or the reduced. You might have a they might have some infection and they will come to you because of that infection, and the patient will have a reduced hemoglobin, or he might have a RBC count is high. So you can make out from his RBC indices, and with the help of the normal CBC chart, and with the help of that, you can identify the case as thalassemia minor or trait, and subsequently do the entire family study. Okay, so the lab features are going to be mild anemia, red cell count is increased, the MCV is reduced, and the MCH is reduced as in thalassemia major. Okay. Now, the peripheral smear will show symptoms even if this patient is asymptomatic. Peripheral smear will show its mild anisoproteinocytosis with microcytic hypochromic RBCs. There is going to be target cells in this. Hemoglobin electrophoresis will show bands of HPA, HPA2, and HPF. Okay. And in trait, HPA2 is going to be more than 3.5. Fine. HPA2 is normally it is less than 3.5, but in this it's going to be more than 3.5 and to 8. Okay, beyond 8 if HPA2 is there, or beyond 10 if HPA2 is there, we have to consider other conditions also. Okay, then HPLC in bone marrow will show erythroid hypoplasia. HPLC is diagnostic. Then we can also do a Nestrov test. This is obsolete. It's a naked eye single tube red cell osmotic fragility test, but generally in undergrads and some postgrads also should know this test. Okay, so Nestrov is very important just for a theoretical purpose. So we take a 5 ml of 0.5% saline is taken in 2 test tubes, control and the test. Okay. Now the control tube will have a 0.02 ml of the blood from a normal person, and the test tube will have a 0.02 ml of blood from the patient. Okay, then now we take a dark black line is drawn on the white paper and it is read through the tubes. The control we can read it clearly, whereas a positive test and we cannot clearly read the black line in thalassemia trait cases because the microcytic hypochromic RBCs, they are resistant to lysis by the normal RBCs. Okay, but I don't. Iron deficiency anemia and thalassemia trait differentiation is very important because sometimes what happens is iron deficiency anemia is there in the patient and that masks the features of thalassemia trait. So you should be very careful dealing with both iron deficiency anemia and thalassemia trait. The blood picture is going to be very similar, microcytic hypochromic picture with a lot of anisocoagulopcytosis, but the red cell count is going to vary. In thalassemia trait is going to be more than 5 million. In iron deficiency is going to be less than 5 million. The MCV is going to be decreased in iron deficiency anemia, and thalassemia trait is going to be decreased out of proportion of anemia. That means that there is not so much anemia. There is RBC count is good enough. Even the hemoglobin count is good. Okay, we can say around 9-10, but the MCV is decreased. Okay, but in this iron deficiency anemia, the MCV is reduced, the hemoglobin amount is reduced, the RBC count is reduced. So it's a very clear picture that it's iron deficiency anemia. Okay. Now serum iron is going to be decreased. It is normal in case of thalassemia trait. TIBC is increased. It is normal in thalassemia trait. Okay. In thalassemia major, it is increased. Now serum ferritin is decreased. It is normal to slightly increase in thalassemia trait. Fine. Transferrin saturation is decreased in iron deficiency anemia. whereas it is mildly increased in case of thalassemia trait. HbA2 levels is normal to decrease in iron deficiency anemia. It is increased in thalassemia trait. RDW is raised in iron deficiency anemia. In thalassemia trait is going to be normal or slightly increased. Now we come to intermedia. Intermedia told you it's a diagnosis of clinicians basically because it's a very thin line between, it's just in the middle, so it is very difficult to identify it. Otherwise, intermediate between the thalam major and minor anemia, but no transfusion dependent. Double heterocycles are there for mild beta positive alleles, so you won't have a beta not in this. Okay, the moderate anemia is going to be there, moderate anisopulverocytosis with microcytic hyperchromic RBCs along with the target cells. See, the peripheral picture definitely will be seen. Okay, depending on the thalassemia type, it's going to go to mild to severe, but it is going to be there. Okay, HbF is going to be 10 to 30. So in intermediate and major, HbF is going to be very raised. Okay, less than 2% होता है normally हमारी body में 1.5-2% से कम होता है. It is going to be very raised in thalassemia intermedia and major, but it is going to be normal in prevention of thalassemia major. So we can do a parental screening and an antenatal screening. We should definitely screen with the parents only at the time of birth, before the time of pregnancy. Okay, so thalassemia trait in both the parents, 1/4 chances of the baby having thalassemia major, and should be very careful with this. So chorionic villus sampling or biopsy is advised in these cases, and chorionic villus biopsy carried out 9 to 10 weeks, and restriction fragment length polymorphism and PCR analysis on fetal DNA is done to identify the point mutations. If fetus is homozygous, termination of the pregnancy is advised. Okay. Now, alpha thalassemia, alpha globin chains are not synthesized. Like in beta, beta were not. In alpha, alpha is not. There are 4 alpha chains. Most of the alpha thalassemias are caused by the deletions that remove one or more of the alpha globin gene loci. I told you that in the beginning. The severity of the disease that results from these deletions is directly proportional to the number of the alpha globin chains that are missing. So the classification is again dependent on the amount of alpha missing and the type of this thing. Okay, severity on the type of symptoms. The deletion of all the 4 genes, that is hydrops fetalis, resulting in intrauterine death of the fetus. Accumulation of the hemoglobin parts, that is free gamma 4 chains, are going to be there. Okay, so all the 4 absent. That was the first one which I told you. Okay, that is hydrops fetalis. इसमें gamma 4 बनता है. अच्छा, इसमें होता है accumulation of hemoglobin parts. Sorry, I told you in I think HPH disease. I told you about the beta 4. That is not hemoglobin parts. This is hemoglobin parts. I'm very sorry about that. So gamma 4 is going to be accumulation of hemoglobin parts having high affinity for oxygen, and therefore oxygen does not dissociate, forming gamma 4 resulting in fetal hypoxia. And HPH is beta 4, the deletion of the 3 genes, okay, causing accumulation of the beta 4 chains. Now the lab features will have anemia, of course, and anisopulverocytosis with microcytic hyperchromic RBCs and target cells. Another similar picture to beta thalassemia. There will be HPH inclusions because the alpha tetramers and all will get accumulated. Okay, trimers will get accumulated. Walls appearance of the red blood cells, and hemoglobin electrophoresis is going to be an HPH band. HPLC will be 5 to 35%. Okay, agnostic. HPLC is again very important. Okay, and hemoglobin electrophoresis is very important for diagnosing these conditions. Sickle cell anemia. Now we come to sickle cell anemia. There is an abnormal hemoglobin with substitution of valine with glutamic acid at the 6th position of the beta globin chain. Okay, so the valine comes in place of glutamic acid at the 6th position of the beta globin chain. So that makes the hemoglobin abnormal. Okay, in homozygotes, all HP is replaced by HBS. So that is going to have a worse disease, sickle cell disease. Whereas in heterozygotes, only about half is replaced, which is sickle cell trait. Okay, geographically it is present in Africa, Mediterranean countries, and India. India, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, tribal areas of Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra. High prevalence of HPS in falciparum endemic area, suggesting that HPS provides protection against falciparum malaria. Okay, now this is particularly there in a lot of hemolytic anemias, but G6PD and thalassemia will specifically have this protection from falciparum malaria. Why do we have that? Because see, there are 2 observations. What happens is that this is metabolically very active, these parasites. Okay, so they consume all the oxygen. Fine. So when there is a lot of consumption of oxygen, there's going to be decrease in the pH, and when the pH will reduce, that will promote the hemoglobin sickling because there will be no oxygen deoxygenation. So there's going to be more of sickling. Now this sickling, so these distorted and very stiff RBCs they will be cleared more rapidly by the phagocytes and there will be less of the viral load. ज़्यादा जल्दी मर जाएंगे वो RBCs जिसमें आपका मलेरियल पैरासाइट होता है, so they will be more cleared out. Okay. दूसरा इसका रीज़न ये है that the sickling will be impaired. These sickled RBCs, they will not be able to adhere to the organs like brain and all that. Normally, falciparum will cause cerebral malaria. Normally, नहीं, rare cases में, but yes, it causes cerebral malaria. But in sickled RBCs will not be able to attach to the endothelium because they are not able to form those membrane knobs which are required for the attachment and which are formed by the parasite called, that is PFEMP1. Okay, so वो नहीं होगा तो वो adhere भी नहीं कर पाएगा. ठीक है, upon deoxygenation, जैसे deoxygenation हो जाता है, HbS molecules undergo polymerization. So whenever there is a decrease in the oxygen supply, they will undergo polymerization, and the process also referred to as the gelation or the crystallization. Now these polymers will distort the red cells, will assume an elongated concentric sickle shape. Now sickling of the red cells is initially reversible upon deoxygenation. जो पहले sickled RBCs होते हैं उसमें अगर आप ऑक्सीजन दोगे in the early stages, it will be reversible. Later it will not be. Membrane damage occurs with each episode of sickling, each episode of deoxygenation, and eventually the cells accumulate calcium, lose potassium in water, and become irreversibly sickled. So they accumulate calcium. Okay. Now the factors which affect sickling is very important. The presence of hemoglobin other than HbS. That is, if there is presence of HbA, it slows the rate of polymerization. Again, how much genetically it is, how many RBCs are basically sickled is very important. If there is normal RBC and the content of normal RBC is good, 70%, more than 50, then the patient will have less features. Okay, it slows the rate of polymerization, and as a result, the red cells of heterozygotes have less tendency to sickle in vivo. And HPC has a greater tendency to aggregate with HbS than does the HbA, and those with HbS and HPC called HPSC disease are symptomatic. Okay, so HPSC will also be symptomatic, but not as bad as HbS. Now, HbF interacts more weakly with the HbS, and therefore newborns with sickle cell anemia do not manifest the disease until they're about 5 to 6 months old, when the HbF fails below the value, that is falls into the adult levels. Okay, 1 to 2% बन जाएगा तो फिर नहीं हो पाएगा. Otherwise, HbF is protective, and it will not be able to interact with the HbS, and they will not form polymers. The concentration of the HbS in the cell, that is red cell dehydration, which increases the hemoglobin concentration. अगर dehydration होगा red cell का, तो वो increase हो जाएगा hemoglobin concentration, so greatly facilitates sickling and can trigger the occlusion of the small blood vessels. Okay. Then there is coexistence of the alpha thalassemia. It reduces the hemoglobin concentration and therefore the severity of sickling. So alpha thalassemia in patients of sickle cell anemia is actually a boon. Okay, so it's going to be very good if a person has got alpha thal with sickle cell. It's going to cause less severe sickling. Relatively low concentration of HbS also contributes to the lack of sickling in heterozygotes with sickle cell trait. Okay. Now the length of time that red cells are exposed to the low oxygen tension. Okay. Now this is also very important, that how long have you been exposed to the low oxygen tension? Are you there in the these high altitude states, or you're there in the plains? All these things are very important. So sickling is confined to the micro, and then this is environmentally and otherwise also in the body. Sickling is confined to the microvascular beds where blood flow is sluggish. So this is normally in case of spleen and bone marrow. So spleen and bone marrow में क्या होता है आपका? Sluggish flow होता है. Okay. Now blood flow in inflamed tissues is slowed. Inflamed tissues में भी blood flow slow हो जाएगा. So if there is inflammation in the body, there will be stagnant blood, or you can say stagnant नहीं सही word है, but there will be slow. So as a result, that is addition of the leukocytes in the red cells to activated endothelium and the exudation of fluid through the leaky vessels. Okay, this prolongs the red cell transit time, making the clinically significant sickling more likely. Okay. So here we have HbA, in which there is glutamic acid, and there is a point mutation. So glutamic acid will convert to the valine. So victorious हो गया ये valine आपका, ये HbS बन गया. So the HbS is oxygenate हो जाएगा, ये तो normal RBC बन जाएगा. ठीक है. अगर ये deoxygenate हो गया तो ये complete deoxygenation, मतलब repeated oxygenation से ये irreversibly sickled हो जाएगा, and it will form very thick membrane, and it will form very sturdy membrane, which will be difficult for the spleen to remove. And if they are reversibly sickled, they can undergo oxygenation and form back to the normal RBC. ठीक है. Reversibly sickled में क्या होता है? Membrane changes increase adhesiveness. अगर इसमें because there's a change in the membrane and there is microvascular occlusion by the sickle cell is occurring when there is an infarct in the marrow or there's a inflammation is there. So that is going to increase the adhesiveness and increase RBC transit time in the inflamed tissue. So there's inflammation, there will be slow blood flow. So there's going to be increased sickling and more chances for the RBCs, the damaged and the sturdy RBCs to actually attach to the endothelium. And spleen इसको remove नहीं कर पाएगा तो hemolysis congestion infarction हो जाएगा. ठीक. The consequences of sickling of red cells is hemolysis. Repeated episodes of deoxygenation causes membrane damage and dehydration of the red cells, which becomes rigid and irreversibly sickled. These dysfunctional red cells are recognized and removed by the mononuclear phagocytic cells, producing a chronic extravascular hemolytic anemia. दूसरी splenomegaly होगी फिर, okay? Microvascular obstruction होगा तो ischemic tissue damage and pain crisis will occur. So microvascular such as if there's a factor like infection, inflammation, dehydration, or acidosis, okay, that trigger the sickling of the reversibly sickled cells affected. Okay. Now the clinical features. So the age at presentation, the homozygous sickle cell disease usually becomes apparent after the 6th month of life. Of course, because of the presence of HbF, which is replaced gradually by the HbS. Normally in our body, HbF is replaced gradually by the HbA2. Okay, so the growth and development is hampered. There is a moderate splenomegaly. The chronic splenic erythrostasis results in the progressive hypoxic tissue damage, which eventually reduces the spleen to functionally useless organ consisting of fibrous tissue. This process is referred to as autosplenectomy and is complete by adulthood. So this is good in spleen case in these people. That is an autosplenectomy only. So there will be no extramedullary, there will be no splenomegaly to get the features of this, get the similar features. Okay. So there will be leg ulcers, hepatomegaly will be there. There will be gallstones because of increased unconjugated bilirubin, and there will be bile stasis. Okay. Abdominal pain due to infarcts in the abdominal viscera. So whenever there is an infarct, so there is sluggish blood flow. These sickled RBCs will accumulate and block it. So there will be more infarcts, abdominal pain, vascular congestion, thrombosis, infarction will follow, can result in any organ, okay, involving the bones, liver, kidney, retina, brain, lung, and skin. So there might be even a sudden loss of blood supply, sudden loss of vision also. Infections like from the encapsulated organism will be there, okay. So because what happens is that spleen very easily removes the encapsulated organisms like Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, Listeria meningitis. ये सब बहुत easily remove कर देता है. But because there is no spleen or there is autosplenectomy, so these organisms will be more, they will be more prevalent and सारे infection इनको हो जाएंगे, ठीक है, like that. So Salmonella osteomyelitis is very commonly seen in sickle cell anemia, but this is very important that otherwise Staph aureus is the most important cause of osteomyelitis, even in sickle cell anemia, but Salmonella osteomyelitis is more common in sickle cell anemia. So this is important. Crisis, what happens is crisis sickling syndrome. There's a vaso-occlusive or pain crisis, most common in the bone marrow, where they often progress to infarction and necrosis. ठीक है? There's an acute chest syndrome, जहाँ पे भी ये इकट्ठे हो गए बंद कर देंगे उसका वो supply तो वही हो जाएगा. Triggered by pulmonary infections and fat emboli from necrotic marrow that secondarily involve the lung. The acute chest syndrome or stroke are the two leading causes of ischemia-related death. Okay? Aplastic crisis will be seen, a sudden and but usually temporary cessation of erythropoiesis. There will be sequestration crisis, that is rare. Massive sequestration of sickled RBCs in the spleen resulting in the hypovolemic shock and death. For lab diagnosis, we will have anemia, of course, moderate to severe anemia. On peripheral smear, we will see moderate to severe anastomosis. Red cells are normochromic, then mildly hypochromic. You will see all kinds of red cells. You will see normochromic, normocytic. You will see microcytic, normocytic. You will see microcytic, hypochromic. You will see hypochromic normocytic cells, and you will see sickle cells, target cells, ovelocytes, nucleated RBCs, so all kinds of varied cells. Reticulocytosis will be seen. Sickling test is very good for this. So sickling is induced by induced by the reducing agent like 2% sodium metabisulfite. So we are outside the body, we are actually simulating the condition of sickling. So we can prove the sickling test and we can prove the diagnosis. Or sodium dithionite with the blood can be used. Okay. Then the hemoglobin electrophoresis I told you is the best. Don't forget this one, fat Santa Claus can't go far. Okay, so cellulose acetate membrane pH 8.9 or starch agarose at pH 8.6, HPSS, तो HPS में 790% ये तो चलो ठीक है, you don't have to remember it, but you should know that hemoglobin electrophoresis में कौन-कौन से bands होते हैं and वो कौन-कौन से वो method में आप use कर सकते हैं for diagnosis. ठीक है, on this you can see peripheral smear. In A you can see lot of sickle cells and these are the sickle cells, 1, 2, 3 सब sickle cells हैं, and you can see other cells also, target cells also you can see. This is a target cell, this is a target cell, target cell. Okay, you can see a enormous normothermic cell also. You can see a polychromatophil also. Polychromasia I told you yesterday, right? It's an immature RBC. It's basically an immature ribosomal fragment, immature hemoglobinization and immature RNA. Okay. So here also you can see sickling. Now HPLC is again very good in diagnosing. It's hemoglobin electrophoresis and HPLC. Family studies can be done and globin chain analysis can be done. We can give hydroxyurea for reducing the sickling crisis. And for prevention, again, antenatal screening for sickle cell trait is very important. And chronic villus biopsy for sampling of the fetal DNA. Thank you, everyone. That is over. That is all for hemolytic anemia. If you have any doubt, you can ask me right now or later.